What's up, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. So when you go back to the 2000s, one of the genres that was very prescient and very kind of, big at the time was the raunchy teen comedy. Yes, it comes back from time to time, but between the 80s and then of course 1999 to like 2005, it was a very kind of big genre that made a lot of money. American Pie made $100 million. It was the time of Seann Scott, who between like 2000 or 99 to like 2004 was a huge actor. He was one of those go-to like college, high school type actors who was just very over the top, outlandish, and goofy. And it's very interesting to see like an actor like him today, who has worked on stuff like the Lethal Weapon TV series and Goon and stuff like that, to see kind of the trajectory of an actor like him to now. It's the same thing with these other actors like DJ Qualls and Breckin Meyer and Amy Smart. It's just a very fascinating look into a bottle of time that doesn't really happen anymore. It's an interesting thing. And on top of that, this is a movie that had Tom Green in it, and of course we know Tom Green as a very over the top, very zany person that did a lot of like really strange stuff back in the early 2000s. He was very popular for his Tom Green show, and that's the reason he's in this movie Road Trip, because he was just a very popular actor at the time and doing his shtick, which is not something I was really ever a big fan of, but I understand the appeal and so on and so forth. And so Road Trip's also an interesting movie because it is the first real mainstream success for Todd Phillips. He had done a couple other films before this, but nothing to this caliber, and kind of set him on a trajectory path like Adam McKay. He would go on to do stuff like Old School and Starsky and Hutch, and then he eventually did The Hangover, which was a massive hit, and then the other sequels, which weren't that great. And then it led him to, of course, Oscar-nominated glory with Joker, which is a very divisive film. But Todd Phillips is a very interesting director because this movie, it kind of shows how cheap his humor can be, how like grade school it can be with, the raunchy sex jokes, and the fact they go through like a donation clinic, the fact that they end up at a black fraternity house and they're making jokes about that. It's very of its time. It doesn't really work well in today's modern filmmaking, but it's a film that I really enjoy. I really like. I think Todd Phillips did a much better job with Old School, which ironically has a very similar premise after watching Road Trip. It's a movie about a bunch of friends who do something zany and crazy, and they have a person that works for a school who's trying to stop them, and that's a very interesting thing to watch. But Road Trip, of course, like I said, is directed by Todd Phillips. It stars Breckin Meyer, it stars Seann Scott, DJ Qualls, and Paulo Costanzo. And the three actors, Paulo Costanzo, Breckin Meyer, and Seann Scott, are good friends. They hang out, they have drinks, they party. Tom Green, for some reason, is part of their group, and they have a good time, and they have the zany lifestyle. Well, Breckin Meyer is basically the main character of this movie. He has a girlfriend named Tiffany who's in, I think, Austin, Texas, Texas University. He goes to Ithaca, and one night he basically has sex with Amy Smart's character, and she videotapes everything. It's like I said, it's of its time, videotaping stuff like that. Girl automatically attracted the guy, but she is basically trying hard to not be kind of stalked by a character played by Rapp, who Anthony Rapp did stuff like Rent and stuff like that. So if Adventures in Babysitting, he's very unlikable in here, which is what the character was meant to be, but he's mostly like a very disgusting stereotype. I don't know why Todd Phillips used the same exact trope in Old School, but it wasn't a good one, and it's like he's just there to be the jealous type. He doesn't like the fact that Breckin Meyer has the attractive woman. So he like does everything in his power to basically, keep him from like graduating and going to school. I don't know. I question why he's even in this movie. He's just like one of those stepping stones that Breckin Meyer has to go over. And it just makes Anthony Rapp an unlikable character in this movie. So it's just not a very fun character. It's not something I enjoyed about the movie. It actually takes down the movie quite a few steps. But it is what it is. Like I said, it's one of those 2000 tropes that was in the movie. So she videotapes it. And the problem is, Another videotape that Breckin Meyer's character was doing was to show his love for his girlfriend Tiffany, but because he cheats on her and everything goes haywire, it's a whole mess. But the problem is the Paulo Costanzo character ends up mailing the sex tape to Tiffany's character. So it leads into them having to go to retrieve the tape, which leads in a bunch of hijinks and antics and crazy over the top scenarios, and this movie becomes a road trip movie. And that's where this movie kind of is fun in its nature, because in the process they get a character who's played by DJ Qualls, who is a very geeky kid. You know, this is before the geek culture was really a big thing. So he's wearing like an Atari shirt, and he's a big video gamer. He's never had sex, so he's a virgin. He's a very quiet, reserved kid, but that's the thing that they do, is they use him to basically use his credit card, to use his car, to go retrieve this videotape that basically keep Breckin Meyer from losing his girlfriend. And in the process, you know, they go and they ruin the car, they max out the credit card, they end up at a black fraternity, they end up at Tom Green's, you know, grandparents' house, and apparently Tom Green's name is Barry Manilow, which is a running joke. And it's all told in the process through Tom Green's character, who's doing a kind of tour of Ithaca for a bunch of new freshmen. And, you know, he's basically explaining the story. And this is where Tom Green's nature of his character and who he is and, you know, persona comes into effect, because what he is telling these people is really hard to believe, because it's so outlandish and so strange. The fact that these four people would go and successfully get to a college by ruining a car, by stealing a blind school bus, or blind bus from a blind school, to just the chaotic nature of this, what's going on. It almost feels like Tom Green is an unreliable narrator, which kind of makes sense, because Tom Green is Tom Green in this movie. And when I was watching this movie, watching the story play out, I'm like, this almost feels like he's telling a fictional tale to get the grip of the audience and the people around him. You know, like I said, it's over the top storytelling. There's a lot of over the top stuff going on in this movie. And I kind of found that a little fascinating, because, you know, you don't really think about when you're watching this, you think about, you know, the boobs and the attractive women, and, you know, what these characters are going through with the donator clinic and stuff like that, and the fraternity. And I don't know, I just found that kind of fascinating. I was like, this movie is actually a little more ingenious than I thought it was. It doesn't make it a very good film, because it really isn't a great film. You know, it's his first effort for Todd Phillips. But it's a film that has a lot of funny moments. It has a lot of 2000 moments. It's a lot of stuff you would see in 2000s. But the fact that Tom Green is telling the story and people are hinged upon the story, they're like enthralled by it. They're, you know, very enthusiastic by it. You know, Ethan Suplee pops up as one of the students in this movie. And I just found that kind of, wow. I was like, okay, sure. So maybe the story is not 100% correct in what he's saying, but that's what makes this movie unique. Like I said, Breckin Meyer and Seann William Scott are doing fun stuff in this movie. I think DJ Qualls is a standout of this movie, because he plays such an understated character. He's one of those weird, crazy, creepy kids that just has a weird aura about him, and he finally hooks up with a woman after a while. You know, the Paulo Costanzo character is the kind of Franz Kranz of this movie, where he is a very big into pot smoking, but he is having like an epiphany after he almost died in the car wreck and stuff like that. I don't know. He's one of those characters that just kind of like is the brain of the group. He's the one that's kind of basically our surrogate in essence, which is kind of funny. But that's also the kind of clever thing about the movie, is it has people that have great chemistry together. You know, these characters work well together. Yes, it's raunchy. Yes, it's goofy. Yes, it's of its time. And you see these characters working in unison to do like really over the top, outlandish stuff. And I just think that's why the movie works. I think it's why it still kind of holds up. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Like I said, it's gets a little uncomfortable in places. Todd Phillips likes to put himself in movies, and there's a point where he's on a bus with Amy Smart and he starts like licking her feet, which is kind of disgusting. I mean, that's the point of the character, and Amy Smart gets freaked out about it, and then she goes, because of a misunderstanding of what Tom Green says, to the University of Boston, and the wrong Tiffany, she tells that she cheated on her boyfriend. So that's a little kind of messed up. There's a whole sequence, a whole running thing in this where Tom Green is tasked to feed the Paulo Costanzo's character's snake. And so he has a rat or mouse, or whatever he's gonna feed it with, and he does like the really goofy thing of like human sacrifice, but with the mouse or rat or whatever it is. And then at some point when the snake is not eating the mouse, he basically puts the mouse in his mouth, which is what Tom Green would do in his TV show, which is a little distracting. Like I said, Tom Green's a very distracting individual when he's not, when he is doing his persona. When he's not doing his persona, he's actually a kind of an interesting character, an interesting actor. But it's just like there's some things in there that's just weird, like the whole grandparents thing that Tom Green's grandparents in the movie. The grandfather has a hard on wood, boner throughout the most of the scenes that he's in. He gets high, the dog talks, stuff like that. It is what it is, but it's not particularly funny or great. There's a scene with Horatio Sands in this movie where basically the DJ Qualls character doesn't want sugar on his French toast. So he basically, Horatio Sands takes the French toast back in the kitchen and licks it and puts it in his pants. It's kind of similar to Waiting, where it's like it makes you kind of disgusted to want to eat at a restaurant because you're afraid of what they're going to do. That was also the problem with movies like Waiting. And in this movie, it's like, yeah, I guess I'll go eat at a restaurant to let people pay their bills. But I mean, just overall, it's it's a lot of fun. Like I said, another character, the Amy Smart character, is another actress that has had roles throughout the year. She's actually in the new Stargirl TV series as mom of the main character. But it's just funny to watch these actors and how they've kind of progressed through the years. Like I said, Breckin Meyer is now known for doing stuff like Robot Chicken. DJ Qualls was like in the core, but he hasn't really done anything since like the mid 2000s. Paulo Costanzo hasn't done hardly anything. Tom Green isn't really relevant anymore. He's just more of a guy that you remember for doing crazy antics. And I think the only person that really has relevance and remembrance in this movie is Todd Phillips, who just created or just directed the Joker movie, which made $1 billion. And of course, Ivan Reitman's one of the producers, which he was a big producer for, of course, Todd Phillips in his first couple movies with that and Old School. But yeah, I mean, just overall, the movie's fun. It's entertaining. It's a movie that if you're my age, you're really going to enjoy for what it was. It's more of a nostalgic trip. But like I said, I think Old School is a much better, much more coherent film. But that's because of the actors with Vince Vaughn and Luke Wilson and, of course, Will Ferrell. But you know what? If you can stomach the kind of weird tropes of the 2000s, the early 2000s, if you can look past the nature of what's going on in this movie, if you can look past the ideas that are set upon you, I think you can still enjoy the movie. There's still some fun moments in it. But don't be surprised if you're a younger person, you watch this movie, you're like, what the hell am I watching? Especially in this day and age when there's more interesting films to watch. But yeah, that's my take on Road Trip. It's a film that's very interesting, very odd, has some great songs and soundtrack, which is what the 2000s were known for, and is an interesting film for a starting point for Todd Phillips. So, but that's it. That's my take on Road Trip. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next. Comment below on this movie. Tell me what you think. What was your favorite part about the movie? What's your favorite character? All that good stuff. Also, hit the like or dislike button depending on what you think of this video, as well as any other video in the channel. But otherwise, that's it. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.